We're back here at Boom and Bust, having a conversation with Stephen Poloz. He is a special advisor to Osler Law Firm, former governor of the Bank of Canada. Stephen, let's continue the conversation about some of the structural changes that could be happening, should be happening with the Canadian economy. We've talked about interprovincial trade barriers. Please continue with your thoughts on these issues.
Okay, yeah. So I think that the interprovincial issue has been there for a long time, and I don't really think it was the intent when Confederation happened. Not on my reading of history. At that time, by the way, the United States walked away from a trade agreement that was already in place with the Canadian provinces, and so in defense, in order to create more of a market for themselves, they created Confederation. They were creating an east-west free trade zone and built the Canadian National Railway in order to link everybody together. That was a major undertaking. And talk about a structural change. That's one, right? That was big. Now, a lot of that good has been kind of undone over the years through, it's a natural process. People each province has its jurisdiction and it refines its regulations through time and so on. That's all well and good. And yet in the end, we have these differences. And it means it takes too much time. If a couple is thinking about moving from the east to the west, well, gosh, one of them can move right away. The other one has to do more qualifications so that they can actually practice their profession and so on. So all those things could go away, and that would give the Canadian economy a boost. But I don't really think of it as a substitute for having your best customer right next door.
Right.
We need to resolve that with the United States. And if in the end there's a permanent regime of some tariffs, I don't think 25 is intended to devastate a business. It's not meant to collect a tax.
Right.
But I do think that this administration wants to use tariffs more as an equalizer throughout the system and as a revenue source. And so I think in the end, we'll all end up with some tariffs on some things in every country. And that'll be a revenue source for us again, too. And if they're using it for tax cuts, I think that's probably the best thing for us to use the money for, too. And in a way, it's like a mini tax reform,
Right.
A painful one, perhaps. But the structural changes that you're talking about would be some of those businesses would be permanently less competitive than before. And so we would probably naturally make them smaller through time. They would shrink through time. And other businesses would be tariff-free and would grow more through time. And that's a slow process, but the most important thing about all that is only companies know. No government mastermind can decide who the winners and losers are. And so it should be just that. Let's put tools in place to make sure that we can over-incentivize investment in Canada to overcome these headwinds. And that way businesses can find a new trajectory forward in this new, tariff-ridden space that we find ourselves in. That's kind of my basic prescription for where we find ourselves.
That is fascinating. I think it's really important that we look beyond the retaliation and try to come up with a new economic strategy. So I'm very pleased to hear you say that. I'm also pleased to hear that you think some kind of reduction of taxes, tax reform should be on the table. I note that the opposition leader, Pierre Poilievre, is talking about that as well. And also he's also talking about getting our products to market, whether it's critical minerals or more pipelines for natural gas and oil to get to Tidewater. All of these things are investments like the railway was back in 1867. So is that similar to your prescriptions then?
That is similar. I don't want to go political on you.
No, that's fine.
But I already people are saying, well, if we're collecting tariff revenue in a retaliatory way, we're going to use the money in certain ways, and mainly you're thinking about the people who are getting hurt
right
in the middle of a trade war, and that's all well and good. But I think if we take care of companies, then we're kind of giving people fishing rods instead of just giving them fish. We're investing in the future. And we have better chance then of being more resilient through the whole piece. And then if you take care of the companies, they'll take care of their workers, right? So if I've got a new investment, a new trajectory forward, then I know I can grow this company, and I'm not going to lay off all my workers. In fact, I'm going to get new workers, right? And so that's the kind of transformation which I think would have to happen, and it's usually happening beneath the surface. And it can't be the government's guiding hand that makes that happen. It's got to be the people sitting at the table with all their numbers in front of them and figuring out how they grow
Right.
a business. And as you say, that would
Sure.
mean probably growing businesses in other countries. But again, I think Canada is even more diversified today than I thought it ever would be on
Right.
trade.
Right.
Roughly 70-30,
Sure.
when you take
Sure.
account of services. Given the gigantic size of the U.S. economy and how close they are, similar in culture, similar legal structure,
Sure.
similar, it's Mother Nature that's our main place.
Understood. We're going to take another brief break. Stephen will be back with you after these messages.